There's a special kind of loneliness that comes from being surrounded by family but never truly belonging. It's like standing outside a warm house in the dead of winter, watching everyone else enjoy the fire while you shiver in the cold. I'm the youngest of 3 siblings, 28 years old. My brother is 35, my sister is 32. Growing up, it was obvious that I was the odd one out. My parents had a clear preference for my siblings. Both successful, both married, both living the kind of lives that look great on Christmas cards. My sister is a lawyer, my brother works in finance. They live in beautiful suburban homes with perfect spouses, while I took a different path. 2 years ago, I left my stable corporate job to start a small business. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. I live in a rental home with my boyfriend of 5 years. We're not rich, but we're happy. My parents, however, see things differently. To them, stability and tradition are everything, and I don't fit into their definition of success. I've learned to ignore the subtle jabs, the way they call my business a hobby, or suggest that I would have been better off sticking to a 9-to-5. Our relationship has always been polite on the surface, but the tension has been there for years. I just never thought it was this bad, until I found out my own family had a reunion and didn't invite me. It happened by accident. One night I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw a story from my cousin. She was at a family gathering, my family's gathering. The whole extended family was there, smiling in a big group photo. My brother and sister stood front and center with their spouses, my parents beside them. My aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone was there, except me. At first, I thought I must have missed the invite. Maybe I'd overlooked a text or an email. So, I messaged my brother and sister. My brother usually replies quickly. My sister takes her time, but she never outright ignores me. This time, nothing. Hours passed, and that uneasy feeling crept into my chest. That feeling when you already know the truth, but you're too afraid to accept it. The next day, I called. My mother. I kept my voice light. "Hey, Mom, how are you? Oh, by the way, I saw some pictures from the reunion. Looked nice. I must have missed the invite." Silence. Then, too quickly, she said, "Oh, the reunion. Well, sweetheart, we just figured you wouldn't want to come. You're always so busy with your little business and everything." Little business. Let the words settle before I spoke. Why would you assume I wouldn't want to come? It's family. She hesitated. Then, in that falsely sweet tone, she said, "We just didn't want to bother you, honey. Besides, you've missed a few events before?" "Yes, because of work. And I always let them know." I pushed further. "Mom, be honest with me. Did you forget to invite me, or did you decide not to?" She sighed. "Sweetheart, let's not make a big deal out of this." And that was my answer. They hadn't forgotten me. They had excluded me on purpose. I hung up the phone and sat in silence. In the next room, my boyfriend was reading. When I told him what had happened, he was furious. "You need to go anyway," he said. "They don't get to decide you don't belong there." And he was right. I had one card left to play. 2 weeks earlier, my boyfriend and I had gotten engaged. We hadn't told anyone yet. I had wanted to share the news in person with my family. Now, I had a new reason. If they wanted to pretend I didn't exist, I would remind them. I spent the next few days preparing. I baked a huge batch of homemade cookies, something to bring so it would look like I'd always planned to come. My boyfriend offered to come with me, but I told him I had to do this alone. "If things go south, I'll call you," I promised. The drive to my parents' house took 3 hours. When I pulled into the driveway, the place was packed. Cars lined up on the lawn, music and laughter spilling out from inside. I took a deep breath, grabbed my cookies, and walked in. The moment I stepped through the door, the noise stopped. Conversations cut off mid-sentence. Dozens of eyes turned to me. My mother was the first to recover. She rushed over, her voice high and forced. "Oh, you made it! What a surprise!" She patted my arm, but there was no hug. I placed the cookies on the table next to a spread of fancy catered food. No one even looked at them. I overheard an aunt whisper to someone in the hallway, "Did they not invite her on purpose?" I slipped into the living room trying to decide my next move. That's when my sister's voice rang out, full of excitement. "Everyone, I have an announcement!" The room fell silent as she grinned and placed a hand on her belly. "I'm pregnant!" Cheers erupted. My mother's face glowed with joy. No one looked at me. No one even noticed I was standing there. I had been erased, and something inside me snapped. I grabbed a fork, clinked it against my glass, and cleared my throat. "Well," I said, "since we're sharing big news," the room fell silent again. I lifted my left hand, letting the light catch my engagement ring. "I got engaged 2 weeks ago." For a second, no one moved. Then, a few half-hearted claps. My little cousins cheered, but the rest of the room stayed, quiet. My mother's expression fell. "Why didn't you tell us earlier?" she asked, but her tone wasn't excitement. It was accusation. I held her gaze. "I wasn't sure you'd care. After all, I wasn't invited here." Awkward shuffling. My brother stepped forward, arms crossed. "You always make everything about yourself." I stared at him. "I make everything about myself? Or do you all just pretend I don't exist until I force you to see me?" Silence. Finally, a cousin spoke up. "She has a right to be upset. You didn't invite her." My mother waved her hand dismissively. "Let's not forget how exciting it is that your sister is having another baby." And just like that, I was erased again. I pulled out my phone, texted my fiancé, "Come get me." Without a word, I picked up my purse and walked out. As I reached the driveway, my cousin ran after me. "You don't deserve this," she said. Tears burned in my eyes, but I smiled. "I know." Later that night, I got screenshots from a family group chat. My mother had called me a disappointment. She had deliberately not invited me because she didn't want me to steal my sister's moment. I left the family chat, blocked my sister's number, and decided no more. Instead of mourning the family that never valued me, I focused on the people who did. We threw our own engagement party. Small, intimate, filled with people who actually loved us. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged, and that was worth everything. A week after the fallout from the family group chat, my phone rang. I froze when I saw the name. Dad. He never called. Ever. My mother was always the one handling family matters, while he stayed on the sidelines. I considered letting it go to voicemail. But curiosity won. When I answered, he started with small talk. Forced. Awkward. Then, after a long pause, he finally said, "I just wanted to clear things up about the reunion." His voice was stiff, rehearsed. He called it a misunderstanding. He said it wasn't meant to hurt me. For the first time in years, I heard something close to an apology. But I didn't let him off the hook. I asked him why they hadn't invited me. His hesitation was all the answer I needed. And then, reluctantly, he admitted, "Your mother thought it would be easier that way. She didn't want any conflict." Before I could respond, I heard her voice in the background. "I'm here too," my mother cut in, as if I had called her instead. Then came the waterworks. She accused me of embarrassing the family. She blamed me for airing private matters and causing unnecessary drama. She claimed that I had made everything worse. I stayed calm. "Mom, all I did was show the truth." Her voice turned sharp. "You only announced your engagement at the reunion to steal your sister's spotlight." That nearly made me laugh. I kept my voice steady. I had every right to share my happiness just like she did. Silence. Then her final blow. "If you can't let this go, maybe it's better if you don't come to family gatherings at all." There it was. The final rejection. The unspoken truth that had been lingering for years. I was never really part of their family, and for the first time I didn't fight it. I exhaled and said, "If that's how you feel, then fine." Then I hung up. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. I thought about every holiday I had spent alone while my parents prioritized my siblings. Every backhanded comment about my unstable career. Every moment I had bent over backward, trying to earn a love that was never freely given. I had wasted so much time chasing validation from people who would never see me, and I was done. The next morning, my fiancé handed me a cup of coffee and said, "I've been thinking, what if we throw our own engagement party, just for the people who actually love us?" At first, the idea felt strange, a celebration without my family, but then I realized, why should I keep begging for a seat at a table that was never set for me? So we planned a small, intimate gathering. Just our closest friends, my fiancé's family, and the few relatives who had supported me, and it was perfect. No judgment, no comparisons, no one trying to erase me. Just love, laughter, and warmth. For the first time in years, I felt seen. 2 weeks later, I received an email from my dad. It was short, but different this time. Real. He admitted that he should have stood up for me more, that he had been wrong to stay silent, that he didn't realize how much I had been hurting. He ended with, "I know I haven't spoken up when you needed me to. I hope we can start fixing things even if it takes time. And then, at the very bottom, your mother still doesn't see things the same way. I don't know if she ever will. I'm sorry for that, too." That part stung, but it wasn't surprising. For a long time, I had waited for my mother to change, to finally see me, to finally choose me the way she always chose my siblings. But I wasn't waiting anymore, I responded, thanking him for reaching out but making it clear. Words weren't enough. If he truly wanted to rebuild our relationship, it would take action. I didn't expect a reply. And that was okay, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't chasing after love that wasn't freely given. A few days later, my sister posted a vague, passive-aggressive status on Facebook. Funny how some people love to air private family matters just for attention. Good or bad, family is family. I didn't respond. I didn't even let myself get angry. I just blocked her and moved on. In the weeks that followed, my life became quieter, fuller, more peaceful. I focused on my business, on planning my wedding, on the people who truly loved me, not for what I could be, but for who I was. And I finally understood something. Family is family. That's what people say. But real family isn't about blood. It's about love, respect, belonging. And if your family refuses to give you that, then you build your own. For the first time in my life, I wasn't looking back. And, to be honest, it felt damn good. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.